Uh, we, uh, Sorry, it looks like, okay. We want to acknowledge that University of Waterloo is located on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee people. The University of Waterloo is situated on the Haldimand Tract, the land promised to the Six Nations that include 10 kilometers on each side of the Grand River. Uh, so congratulations on your offer to be a Mathy at University of Waterloo. As I said, it's currently 10 a.m. in Waterloo, and we welcome you from wherever you're joining us. We know that we have people joining us from Canada, India, United States, UK, Bangladesh, Middle East, and a few students from Africa. So thank you very much for joining us. And I just wanted to start by introducing myself. My name is Pavak Vyas, and I work for University of Waterloo Faculty of Mathematics as an international recruitment officer based out of Waterloo in Canada. I will be your anchor at this webinar. It's a pleasure for all of us to have you people on this webinar, How to Succeed in Computer Science with Jeff Avery. We are aware that past 1.5 year has been really challenging for all of us. Schools and universities have moved to remote learning. Exams have either been canceled or been postponed. And amidst of all of this, here you are at the doorstep of a university, and probably that's in a different city or different country. So we understand you would have a lot of questions about how your university life is going to be. And therefore, we have organized these simple lectures and talks with professors and teachers at University of Waterloo Faculty of Math. I'm joined by several colleagues of mine who from Faculty of Mathematics at University of Waterloo to answer some of your questions on admissions. So feel free to reach out to us by the Q&A button. Just to introduce University of Waterloo to you, established in 1957, University of Waterloo is ranked one of the top universities in Canada on several aspects, such as research and publication, hands-on experiential learning, partnership with employers, and several others. We have 6 strong faculties, 12 faculty-based schools, 4 affiliated institutions, and 100 plus buildings in a 1,000-acre campus. This makes us one of the largest universities in Canada with over 48,000 students, 4,000 employees, and more than 190,000 alumni across the world. Studying at Waterloo is a dream and a delight for thousands of students across the globe. Um, Faculty of Mathematics at University of Waterloo is powerhouse of discovery and innovation. As North America's only dedicated faculty of mathematics, we make world's leading contributions and create and attract industry leaders. With over $29 million of research funding, 280 full-time professors, more than 8,600 undergraduate and graduate students, 45 different programs, and 500 courses, and over 40,000 alumni members across the world. We are one of the largest faculties of mathematics in the world. Housed within University of Waterloo Faculty of Mathematics, Cheriton School of Computer Science is named for David R. Cheriton, who earned his PhD in computer science in 1978 and made a transformational gift to the school in 2005. Ranked among top CS schools in the world, Cheriton School of Computer Science brings together more than 100 faculty members, 60 staff members, and 4,000 undergraduate students and 400 graduate students. The school had its origin as the Department of Applied Analysis and Computer Science, founded in 1967, and has grown to become the largest academic computer science research center in Canada. I have a pleasure to introduce Jeff Avery today on this webinar. Jeff Avery holds a PhD in computer science at University of Waterloo and is a lecturer in Cheriton School of Computer Science, where he teaches undergraduate software development and design courses. His area of research is in the field of human-computer interaction, specifically in the area of assessing and improving input and interaction technologies. Outside of the classroom, he serves as an undergraduate advisor to the computer science program. He enjoys interacting with students at hackathons, design competitions, and recruiting events. Thank you very much, Jeff, for joining us on this call today. And stop sharing my screen here, and then it's over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Pavik.
Thank you.
I'm going to steal control here, and hopefully this works.
Yeah.
All right. You can see that? Is that good?
Yes, we see that.
Thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. All right, thank you very much. So that's probably your slide, so I'm going to advance to mine. There we go. So thanks for the introduction, Pavik. I really appreciate it. Good morning, everybody, or good evening, or somewhere in between, depending on where you are. I'm super happy to be here with you. As Pavik said, my name is Jeff. I have two different roles, I suppose you could say, within the School of Computer Science. I'm a lecturer, which means I'm a faculty member, but I'm a faculty member with a specific focus on teaching and education. So I do research, I do administrative things as well, but a large percent of my time is spent interacting with undergraduate students. Basically, I'm here because I love teaching and I love interacting with you. So that's a big part of my job. I want to talk about advising a little bit today, and I'm sort of stepping into that role. As an academic advisor, I'm one of the people you'll talk to as part of your academic career for academic planning, figuring out what courses to take, that kind of thing. So what are we going to do? Well, I want to talk a little bit about what I think will help make you successful here, give you a little bit of an understanding about what you're getting into in your first term, and hopefully help set you up for success when you arrive. So getting started, right? So the very first thing I think you should focus on isn't academics, at least not when you first arrive, right? So I think one of the biggest challenges for people coming to university for the first time is that it's just a bit of a shock, especially if you're an international student, you've got a culture shock to deal with, you're time shifted, you're away from family, right? So it's a difficult and challenging time for a lot of people when they first arrive. So I think the most important thing for you to do, honestly, is just kind of ground yourself. Spend a little bit of time getting used to the atmosphere, the environment. If you're here in person, ideally, you want to spend some time on campus, walking around campus, sort of orientating yourself and figuring out what's here, okay? If you're not on campus, you can still sort of do this, right? You can still go through the website, figure out what services are available, what people are here, and try to sort of get accustomed to what we have to offer and get a sense of what the experience is going to be like. We'll talk in a little bit about different programs that are in place to sort of help you connect with people as well. And like I said, you want to explore student supports, right? There's a huge infrastructure here of people like me whose job and frankly, our goal is to make this a really, really positive experience for you. So there's lots of us here to help you. You just need to get in touch with us, right? So I'll encourage you to do things like meet your academic advisor, people like me, look for student services. Again, we're going to talk about some of these as we go through this morning. And that should really be what you're doing for the first few days, right? Get to know people, get to know your environment, sort of compensate for the jet lag and all of those things you have to deal with, right? And then once classes start, you're going to find yourself in a room with a lot of people just like you. Lots of other students, lots of other people that are passionate about math and computer science. So say, meet your classmates. Don't be afraid to reach out and talk to people. You're all sort of in this together. It's a super exciting time for everybody. And the people you see in class around you are the people you're going to be in class with for the next 4 or 5 years. Probably working on projects with, right? Sitting together in classes. So, meet people, make friends, form study groups. I think it's a lot easier if you have a group of people going through it together. In the same vein, talk to your instructors. I know sometimes people are intimidated when they come to university. They think they're not supposed to talk to us or they're supposed to stay at hands distant. That's not true. At least for most of us, it's not true, right? We teach because we like teaching. For us, a lot of the satisfaction is helping you learn about things that we're already passionate about. So I love talking to students. So ask questions. Come see us during office hours and we're happy to help you as well. And finally, sort of practical advice. when you get into the classroom, it's going to be a different experience than you're probably accustomed to, right? You might be in a large room of 50 or 60 people, maybe more, maybe a couple hundred in some of the large first year classes, right? So you'll get a syllabus, you'll get, sort of a list of what you're going to be doing in the term, along with a set of deadlines and dates. And it's your responsibility to make sure you understand what you're getting into in a class, right? So treat those seriously, read your syllabi, understand the dates, track your dates, track that information. One big change you're going to find from high school is that nobody's going to track you. We simply can't do that. The classes are too big and there's too many people involved for us to sort of track individual progress very carefully, right? As much as I would like to sort of carefully track how everybody in my class is doing, I can't do it. So you're responsible for your own progress. That means you really need to keep track of deadlines, getting things done on time and so on. So, all right, those are general tips. But I want to talk a little bit about classes. There's often lots of questions about this, right? What's it going to look like in my first term here? So we're going to talk about your first term. So when you come in, whether you're a math student or a CS student, and regardless of which program, CS type program you're in, you're going to have a very, very similar first term. So whether you're in computer science, CFM, double degree, or software engineering, you're going to have very similar structure to your first term here. So you're going to have common courses. You're going to have a CS course. Everybody has one. Even math students have a CS course, either 115 or 135. I'll talk about that choice in a second. If you're a software engineer, I'm not forgetting you, you'll have 137. You'll find software engineers often have their own versions of courses with slightly different course codes, okay? So your first CS course is typically, for computer science students, is typically a functional programming course. We teach a language called Racket, which is very much like Scheme. It's a functional language, which you probably haven't seen before, and that's okay. We don't expect you to have seen it before, right? But it's a really good starting point for people, especially if you're math strong and maybe haven't programmed very much before, okay? So it's a good choice there. Software engineers, you'll be doing C in 137, slightly different course. As well, everybody's going to take an algebra course and a calculus course. As a matter of fact, you're going to take a couple of them, but in your first term, you're going to take one of each. And the reason we do this, the reason we want to start you off taking computer science and math courses, even as a computer science student, is we think math skills are critical, not just for having sort of practical skills and problem domains, but they teach you really, really strong problem solving skills, the ability to decompose problems, sort of come up with logical approaches to dealing with things. It helps you build really, really strong analytical skills, critical thinking skills. And frankly, a lot of advanced computer science relies heavily on math anyways. So we need to get you there. So those are the three common courses. As well, you're going to do a communications course. Everybody does communications courses. You actually need 2 of them before you graduate. The reason for that is because it doesn't matter how brilliant you are, you have to be able to share your brilliance with the world, right? You need to be able to communicate ideas effectively in the workplace. Even as a researcher or a scholar, you need to be able to do this. It's an important skill. So we really emphasize that as well. And finally, your last course. Regular CS students, you're going to have 5 courses. Your 5th course is an elective. An elective is sort of anything you want it to be. Don't get hung up on what you should have as a first course. I typically encourage people, find something you're just interested in that isn't a CS course or a math course. You have lots of time to explore electives as you go, and eventually you're going to be encouraged to have a broad range of electives. But for your first one, it honestly doesn't matter. Pick something you're interested in, all right? If you want music theory, pick a music course. If you like history, pick a history course. If you love physics, take a physics course, okay? So the structure will be a couple things. The structure will be slightly different if you're in a structured program, like CFM, double degree of software engineering. You folks often have more courses, maybe 6 courses a term compared to 5. So your structure may be slightly different as we sort of account for the differences in your programs. One other thing, this was a question that came up the last time I gave this talk. I should preempt it a little bit now. Your first computer science course, 115 or 135, probably the most common question we get asked is, which one do I take? Does it matter which one I take? So the way the program is structured, we're assuming you're coming in with no computer science experience, and we're sort of designing the course for you to take 135 in your first term and then 136 as the follow-up course, okay? But sometimes what we find is people haven't done any computer science. Maybe it's just a little bit too much with all the math and so on, right? So 115 is sort of a slower start. if you take 115, you can do 115, then you have to do a second course called 116, and then you're allowed to do 136. So it sort of feels like we're splitting it up. Instead of 2 courses, you're getting 3 courses in a row. It doesn't really hurt you later. We just sort of offset courses a little bit later to make up for it, but it's a bit of a slower start. My general recommendation is take 135. We actually have a special rule in place. If you start on 135, you've got about 5 or 6 weeks where if it really isn't working for you and you find the workload is too much, you're allowed to drop down to 115, okay? So we can talk more about that during the Q&A session if you'd like, or you can talk to an advisor about it. So that's your first term. I don't have a slide for your second term because your second term is sort of the same, all right? You're going to have a second CS course, a linear algebra course. You're gonna have a second calculus course. You're going to have 1 or more electives in your second term as well, okay? And that's something you probably should talk to your advisor about once you're here. All right, so let's talk a little bit about upper years. I want to talk about sort of options in your program, right? Because although there's a fair number of courses that you need to take. I want to say forced, that sounds too harsh. There's a certain number of courses you have to take as part of your program, but there's a fair amount of flexibility that lets you customize your program to suit your interests as well. So I'll start with the regular computer science program on the left. We refer to that as a flexible program because the regular CS program has 15 required courses out of 40 courses that you're going to have before you graduate. So there's only 15 required CS courses. There's actually 10 electives that are non-math courses, and then another 8 that are math courses that are sort of free for you to choose. So there's a fair number of open courses you can pick from. And what a lot of students end up doing is they'll sort of pick courses from other areas, other programs at the university, or they'll specialize. So I just want to sort of walk through what some of these options are for you. So the first thing I've listed here is this idea of adding a specialization. So as a CS student, what this really means is you take the core courses that every CS student takes, and then with some of your electives, you take extra courses in a specialized area, like artificial intelligence or bioinformatics or computational fine arts, software engineering, something like that, right? That interests you. It's not a decision you make in first year. This is a decision we'd make in second year, probably. And it's really, again, just sort of fine tuning your degree a little bit. There's a number of those available, again, something to talk to your advisor about, but that's available for you as an option. I should mention if you're a software engineering student, you can also add some of those specializations as well. So there's some choices for you as well. Software engineers don't have as many electives, so it's hard to fit some of these. But again, if you talk to your advisor, they can sort of advise you on how to fit in maybe one of these. Another specialization, another sort of area of interest is a data science program, which is also a second year entry program. So if you're in straight computer science, you can transfer to, potentially, there's a limited number of spots, but you could transfer to data science, which is a focused specialized degree under computer science as well in that area. So I should talk about the structured programs as well. You have fewer options in structured, typically because you're already doing this, right? If you're a double degree student, you're already doing a full computer science degree and then packing in a business degree as well, right? So there isn't quite as much flexibility because you have so much core material you have to cover. But every student can do what we listed as minors or options. A minor basically means 8 courses in another area, like history or physics or something like that, right? So everybody has the ability to take a minor in a different area with your elective courses. So you can do that as a double degree student or a CFM student or a software engineering student, okay? So there's lots of ways you can sort of customize your degree. Again, to get into the details, it's probably something you want to do with your advisor. They can help you plan out your courses over the course of your degree to sort of make everything fit appropriately and make sure you're getting the right courses in there, okay? And again, not something you need to worry about in first year. It's something you would typically pick in second year, so maybe something to think ahead a little bit on. All right, so we should talk a little bit about what will you be taking? What are the core courses, right? Because I keep talking about all these core computer science courses that you're going to take. So the courses on the left are the courses that everybody takes after first year. So at the end of first year, you've taken 2 programming courses in computer science, and then we're going to ask you to take these courses, often in basically this order. You're going to take a logic and computation course, which is what it sounds like. Then you'll take an object-oriented software development course in your second, your 2A term, which is your first term of second year. Why object-oriented? Well, because by this time, if you're a regular CS student, you will have taken a functional programming course as your first course. an imperative course, but using C as your second course. And then in 246, in your second year, you're going to be doing C++ and object-oriented development. So those are all the major paradigms that we use in software. Primarily. So, SC students, I'm sorry I keep having to talk to you guys on the side, but SC has a slightly different structure and a different way that they organize their program. You'll also do object-oriented program, but you do it in 1B if you're a software engineer, okay? Other important courses, data structures, we have algorithms, which are sort of core foundational programming courses. We have 241 foundations of sequential programs, has a lot to do with how compilation works, how linking works, that sort of thing. Computer organization is really just hardware and architecture. Operating systems is sort of low-level details, and well, it's too much to get into in this talk, but these are the core courses that everybody's going to take, okay? And then on top of that, like I was saying, you have a number of other computer science courses that you have to take to fulfill requirements, typically 6 more that are required and then a bunch you could take. So this is really, but by the time you hit third year is really when you've taken all the core courses, and then you're starting to pick and choose courses that interest you, right? This is where you're really focusing on a specialization or picking up just other general interest courses. So things like on the right-hand side, 348 is databases and database systems. 349 is user interfaces doing, say, mobile development, something like that. That's my course, right? Numerical computation, security and privacy, AI, graphics. These are all things you can pick up as a CS student. And you basically pick according to your interests or where you would like to end up working one day. And there's a lot. I can't emphasize this enough, right? I counted yesterday to try to get a handle on how many courses we offer. There's, I think I lost count at around 62 courses in computer science that are available to you. Probably half of those are 300s and up. They're advanced courses. So the biggest challenge often is figuring out what do I really want to focus on, because you're not going to get everything. There's just too much in computer science, right? But there's definitely an opportunity to do a deep dive in a number of really interesting areas. All right, let's see if my slides will advance. So specialized programs, I haven't forgot about you. Like I said, though, you've already got a lot of breadth baked into your programs because you're effectively doing a computer science degree integrated with another degree, right? So if you look at data science, you're going to do, for example, all the core CS courses, plus a number of statistics courses that are relevant to data science, right? So a lot of linear algebra, a lot of sort of building linear models, doing regressions, doing forecasting, all the kinds of things you would expect to do when you're working with big data. CFM, everything to do with finance and markets, right? So you're going to have a bunch of finance courses, you're going to have securities courses. Again, you're going to do statistics and modeling and regressions on that data because it's a fairly math heavy program as well. Double degree, you're going to do the core CS courses plus a bunch of business courses in conjunction with Laurier, which is going to get you that other degree as well. And finally, software engineering. So software engineering is an interesting program because we want to pack on all the core CS curriculum, but it's also an accredited program. So there's certain foundational courses you must take as an engineer. Things like classical mechanics and electricity and magnetism, right? Things that a normal CS student probably wouldn't study. So you're going to have a fairly rigid program with all these extra courses, but don't fear, you absolutely cover all the core computer science courses as well. See how my time is going here. All right. So tips for academic success. All right. I've talked a lot about sort of what the structure is. I hope that gives you some sense of what you're getting into. I want to talk about what I think will help you succeed as somebody who works with a lot of students. The first is meet with an academic advisor. That sounds sort of self-serving, right? But meet with us. There's a lot of us. If you look at computer science, there's what is that? 13 advisors for computer science programs at the university. That's a large number just based on the size of the program that we run. So, so there's 9 CS advisors for the general CS students. And then again, there's 4 specialized advisors for those structured programs. So what do we do for you? We help you plan out your academic career. All right, that's really our primary purpose, is to sit with you and say, what are your interests? Where would you like to see yourself going? Here's the courses that we think you should be taking. Here's how you should be structuring things. My biggest advice for you, and the reason that I suggest that you meet with advisors is, I think to be really successful, you need to plan your career out. It doesn't mean that you need to come here having a plan for 4 years. That's not what I mean. It means that you should have some sense, though, of what you're interested in, right? Take a few courses that interest you sort of figure out what makes sense for you. And by the time you hit second year, you should know what your specialization is. You should know what minors you're pursuing, and you should have a plan on what courses you want to take and what order to get there. If you're in co-op, that also lets you figure out and sort of check out different industries and different technical areas to figure out what's going to work for you as well, okay? And we're here to help you with that. So do that and let us help you do that. We can offer you a lot of advice. I also say we're here to help you adjust to university life. What do I mean by that? Well, there's a lot of support services, as we'll talk about. We can't do everything. We're not qualified to help you with absolutely everything that you might encounter, but we're well connected to the rest of the university. And even if you don't know where else to go, talk to us and we'll give you advice on where you can go and who you should talk to get help. So the second thing, my second big tip is meet your course staff. And I say this as an instructor, as somebody who spends a lot of time in the classroom. My primary goal as an instructor is for you to learn the material. Primary. Secondary is for you to be excited about why you're there, right? And because of that, I try really hard to make myself available. Everybody I know does the same thing. We all have office hours. We all meet students outside of class, and we're very happy to do that to help you get through the material. But again, there's too many of us. I can't email each of you every day and say, how's it going, right? You need to get in contact with us and let us know that you need help, and we'll do it. And we'll make ourselves available for you, okay? We also have more organized help outside of class. We have a math and CS tutorial centers. They're drop-in centers where you can go and actually get help in first year, like specific help as in, I don't know how to do this derivative, right? They'll help you walk through those things. Give you assignment help, that kind of thing. We also have a consulting center for CS. So again, we have lots of really, really good drop-in, lots of really good support for you academically. And finally, there's a huge network of people that you can connect to on campus. I'm sort of conscious of the time. I'm not going to dwell too much on each of these. I just want to point out what we have, the ones that are probably most important to you to know about right up front. So under support, I've listed Math SOC plus 10 clubs. Math SOC is the Math Society. Basically, it's a group of math undergraduate students, right? It represents the math undergraduate cohort, all of you, not just CS, but all the other math students as well. And they do events. They run all kinds of events. They run Pi Day. They run all the sort of clubs through mathematics, sort of special interest groups, that kind of thing. So if you're interested in sort of just meeting other people, getting together sort of recreationally to do things, that's a really, really good place to connect, okay? And again, meeting your peers is really, really going to help you be happy and successful while you're here. Women in Math and Women in Computer Science. These are two specific groups that have formed to promote and support and advocate for women in computer science. It's not commonly known, but the first programmers were women. For a long time, women dominated computer science, and then there's been sort of a drop down in that. So we're trying to improve that. We like to see solid representation across the spectrum in computer science. So fantastic group. I strongly recommend that you get in touch with them and again, meet your peers, meet people you're going to be in school with. I mentioned tutorial centers. We also have things like IT support and computer labs and so on, where you can go to study and get help. I do want to call it a little bit on the math undergrad office. They're in MC 4022, fourth floor of the math building. Basically, the math undergrad office does all advising for first year courses and academic advising for a lot of math. So for your first year coming in, they're the people you're probably going to be dealing with the most in terms of scheduling, figuring out courses and so on. They're fantastic. They really know their stuff. I highly advise you to keep in touch with them as well. Other opportunities, I should call it, these are things that people are often interested in that are sort of extracurricular. The first one, I got a big response on this yesterday, is our Math in Europe program. This is a specialized exchange program of sorts. What happens is we have a couple of math professors that like to travel back to Europe every summer. So they take students with them, and they'll take, I don't know how many, say a dozen students back to Italy or Greece or France or wherever they happen to be going. And you spend your mornings studying, and then you spend your afternoon and evenings touring the city and sightseeing and basically experiencing that culture. Highly recommend it. I've never done it. I would love to do it. Pavik and I were talking about a CS in Europe program. Maybe we'll do something like that one day. Yeah, there's a bunch of things like that. We actually have quite a number of exchanges that we support that you can look into as well. Again, not a first year thing. This would be second year for the Math in Europe or later for the other exchanges. Other interesting things, we have capstone projects. I'll try to talk about that towards the end of this. Capstone's like a big project you would work on with a team. Engineers, you are required to do that in your 4th year. Computer science, you have that optionally as well. And the last thing as well, we have an academic research assistantship. This is a program where we pair you up with professors doing active research. This is a way for you to sort of work part-time as an undergraduate with a professor doing research in an area of study. And this is real research that's going to get published someday, right? This is really valuable if you're, say, partway through your degree and you're considering graduate school. You want to know what research is like in whatever field. This is a way for you to get practical experience doing that, which is fantastic. All right. I should keep going because I'm going to run the clock out if I'm not careful. Other support services. So we have a large support network, as I keep saying, and that includes things like health services. We have a health clinic on campus that you can drop in and get help or referrals as needed. We have an active counseling services program if you need to talk to somebody. If you're having personal issues, any other kinds of issues, mental health issues, they're there for you, and they actively support our student body as well. We have an accessibility office. So if you need an accommodation, if you have a disability or you need some kind of academic accommodation, if it's something you had through high school, for instance, you should be talking with accessibility, and they can help walk through your situation and determine if we should be doing something to help you out as well. Take advantage of that. Lots of people don't, but we're eager for you to do that. We want you to be successful here. Finally, athletics and recreation, huge athletics program, huge rec program, all kinds of sports and clubs and things to look into. The last thing I'm going to mention, and then I'm going to move on, is UW Mates. This is actually a peer-to-peer support network. So there's this, and MassSoc also has another program that's very similar to this, where we'll help you meet other students. We'll pair you up with somebody else in your program, for instance. So you can ask questions and say, hey, you know, you're in 3rd year. What did you take in 2nd year? How did you deal with this situation? What did you do for this project? You know, you can get advice from people who've actually gone through what you're going through. Okay, so my last bit of advice, and this is pretty strong advice as well. This sort of follows the, plan your course of action advice, right? Create a schedule or create a study plan. If you look at the way the courses are structured and laid out, you've got about 5 courses, say 5 or 6. You're going to have about 3 hours per week per course in lectures, all right, plus tutorials. So plan for 15 hours, maybe 18 hours of being in a classroom with somebody. This does not mean that your work week is 18 hours long. This means that your organized time in the classroom is 18 hours. You should be spending probably 20 hours a week on top of that studying. And it's really, really easy to not spend that much time studying, right? It's really easy to say, I only have 2 classes today and then I'm done, right? And then go out and play soccer or go golfing or something, right? Develop good habits right up front. What I strongly recommend, what we strongly recommend is organize your time and structure your time. Because if you think about it, we're really asking you to commit to a full-time job. This is like this is sort of 9 hours a day, 8 hours a day, right? Every day. It means you should be doing a 9 to 5 or a 9 to 6 in terms of the amount of effort you're putting in. You probably won't work those hours, but you should be planning out those number of hours every day. And the best thing you can do for yourself is to block it off and say, I have 2 hours free on Mondays. I'm going to spend that on calculus at this time. And sort of set up your habits early so that you're in good shape and don't fall behind. Organize your learning space, prepare a dedicated space so you're not scrambling trying to find some place to study. It just makes it easier and more efficient for you to do that. And figure out what works for you. Everybody's got a system. My system was to use a calendar and block off things on my calendar. That's what worked for me. But again, figure out what's going to work for you. Just make a point of doing it and be diligent about it. A couple other little tips, go to lectures. Go to lectures. I say this in class, it drives my students nuts, right? There's a tendency for people to go, this is easy, I'm not going to bother going, right? Or I'm behind in calculus, so I'm going to skip algebra today to work on calculus. Don't do this. Never do this. Because you're giving up, an hour or 2 of dedicated learning, which is the most intense it can get, and you're committing to sort of doing it on your own, which will take more time. So trading off an hour of lectures is going to cost you 2 or 3 or 4 hours of your own time later on. It's never a good trade-off, okay? Don't do that. Finally, I keep telling you all you have to do for work. This is hard, but de-stress a little. Make time for other things as well. You need to have friends. You need to spend time with your friends and your family. You need to get enough sleep at night. You need to spend time on fitness, right? Mental health is really important. Taking care of yourself is important so you can be successful at the other things. Okay, my last slide, right? So if you're determined and keen, and most of you probably are, asking what can I do between now and September, we have a few things that we would recommend. cemc.uwaterloo.ca is a website that has a bunch of course material on it. We have a couple computer science courses there, so you can learn how to create a website. You can learn Python if you want. This will not directly help you with your studies. This is just something to keep you sharp if you decide you want to do this, right? And it's never a bad idea to sort of learn those skills. So what I would recommend, Methyl 99 is a math preparation course. This I would highly recommend that you do. You should be enrolled in it automatically, I believe, in June as part of course selection. And the idea is that it's a 6-week course, not for credit, but it walks you through and reviews everything you need to know in math leading up to the start of the term, all right? So if you're worried about your math skills being rusty, this will help get you back up to speed. Finally, participate in Waterloo Ready. It's our program to sort of inform you about what's happening leading up to September. Don't worry too much about your resume. Don't worry about searching for people online. Take a break, above and beyond. Spend time with your family. Spend time with your friends. Take a break and get rested. And I really, really look forward to seeing you. Hopefully, we'll all meet each other in person. If not September, then very soon after that. That's it for me, Pavik. So thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions that are lingering at this point.
Yes, Jeff. It was really great to hear you, and I mean, always very insightful to have stuff from your side. So I have a bunch of questions that are with me, and I would request the audience to keep the questions flowing in the Q&A box. We have about 20 minutes. Jeff is going to be with us for that time, and ask whatever you want to ask about your university life. Okay, I have a bunch of questions, so I'll start with them. So first question is, I would like to know if any prerequisite is required or some knowledge is required in coding to participate in events like hackathons.
That's a great question. I don't believe so. I don't believe you need to have any sort of knowledge for a hackathon. Hackathons often consist of brainstorming around a problem and then coming up with solutions for that problem. There's a lot of things that you have to do leading up to coding. So no, I think it's perfectly fine to dive in and share your skills, even if you don't necessarily know how to program.
Yeah, thanks. The next question is it possible to take up a minor in subjects such as physics or psychology if I'm going to be doing a CS major? And if so, what would be the course requirement be like?
Sure. So, so the regular CS program, you've got a number of required CS and math courses. You have 10 non-math electives. 2 of those have to be communications courses, so that leaves you with 8 non-math courses. Then you have another 8 courses that can be anything you want. So that's 16 courses that you have to spend on electives. A minor is 8. So for psychology, you would have to spend about half of your elective courses on psychology courses. And then you have what we call breadth and depth. You have to spread your electives around a little bit in other areas, but it's quite easy to fit in one minor. It's not something you have to stress about in first term, right? If you know you want to do a psychology minor, sure, take the first psychology course in your 1A term, go for it, right? But if you don't, it's not going to hurt you. You have more than enough room to sort of pick up on your minor in your second year and still have lots of time to do it.
Yeah, great, thanks. Next question is, for specializations, does that mean my elective would be filled with these courses related to my specialization, or rather than 10 non-math electives?
That's a great question. The answer is the short answer is no. You don't have to dedicate all the number of electives you would for a minor, because there's some overlap. It gets very complicated because it varies a lot based on the particular specialization you're looking at. But for example, if you were to do the AI specialization, there's about 8 courses there as well you have to take. But if you look at the core CS courses that you have to take, 4 of them are pick your own courses. So for those 4 courses, you could pick the 4 AI courses you need, and you've eliminated half of the ones for your specialization, right? And then you would have to dedicate about 4 of your electives towards AI. So it's often a mix and match, right? Where you have to say, I have this number of CS courses that have to be chosen from CS, and you can decide how many of those you want to dedicate towards a specialization versus just general interest courses. So often doing a specialization isn't as difficult as doing a minor because there's more overlap. When you're doing a minor, by definition, you're doing something that's not in computer science. So there's no overlap with your core degree, right? We have no physics courses that are required. So if you take 8 physics, that's going to chew up your electives. So it's really a bit of a mix and match depending on the specific specialization you're looking for. But again, there's more than enough room to do any of the specializations in the same timeline, plus the required electives.
Yeah, okay, that was great. The next question is what we get to asked often is there any specific requirement of computer or laptop that we need to have for computer science?
So yeah, the short answer is no, there really isn't. There really isn't any preferred or specific system that you have to have. I would say that you need a notebook, like you need a computer that you can bring to class and take notes on and run software on. All the courses we heavily use either software that's multi-platform and runs everywhere or is open source and also tends to run everywhere, things like Python and C and C++. So you're able to do that on a Mac or a Windows system or even a Linux system. We tend to suggest Mac or Windows because you also have an Office 365 subscription, I believe. We use Outlook for email, and those don't run on Linux. So typically Mac or Windows is preferred. My only recommendation is pick one of those, pick a machine that's going to last with enough memory. Memory is often the thing that gets you into trouble. Don't pick a lowball machine that's got like 4 gig, pick something with 8 or even 16. That's probably the limiting factor for most of what you're going to run into in your career. If you're going to do graphics in 4th year, maybe something that has a discrete GPU as well, but maybe.
Oh, okay. That was cool. There is someone who's interested in entrepreneurship. So
awesome.
They're asking like, I'm in CS and want to know when I can take a minor in entrepreneurship.
As soon as you're eligible to take the first course, I believe you could probably do it. I don't know. I'd have to look at the entrepreneurship program specifically to look at the requirements for that. You can probably do that yourself. The short answer is probably not until at least 1B, probably 2A, because you really need to get that communications course done in first year. You may have room for one of the entrepreneurship courses as well. Take a look online, like Google it, look at the program. There's in the academic calendar, if you look at the courses, it will tell you what specific requirements you have to take the first entrepreneurship course you want to take. I just can't recall off the top of my head.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That helps. Next question is, what are the prerequisites in getting into undergraduate research assistantship?
I believe you have to be at least, it may be 3A that you need to be in 3rd year. And typically we look for an 80% average or higher. And it's not because we're worried about you being capable of doing it. That's actually got nothing to do with it. It's because it's about a 10-hour-a-week commitment, and we want to make sure that academically you're not going to suffer for having done it. We don't want to pull you away from your courses to make you do things for us that benefit our research and harm you academically. So, but typically it's about 3A. That's the level where you've got enough courses under your belt that you can probably technically contribute to something that's fairly complicated.
Oh, okay. Next question is, can you elaborate on what functional programming entails and how it is different from regular programming language? Would you recommend some preparatory work before the hand?
Yeah, this is, so it's difficult for me to explain it simply in this call. I'm happy to have a conversation afterwards if you want to really get into it. So there's different programming paradigms, which is sort of different ways that you would structure a program or approach solving a problem computationally, right? The one you probably know is what we would call imperative. That's what Python typically is, what it's complicated because languages often do multiples, right? But it's sort of I'm going to go through my program sequentially. We teach that in 1B using C. Functional is a different approach which treats computation as the composition of functions on top of one another, layering of functions. There's a whole category of programming languages like Scheme and ML and Haskell, which fall into that category. There's also object-oriented, which you probably heard of as well. We teach functional as your first course because it's the one that's the closest to things you know as a mathematician. It allows us to take mathematical problems and express them very simply as a computation that we can perform. So it's a nice, easy transition for people that have maybe never programmed before. That's why we teach it up front, okay? Is there something you can do to prepare for it? Not really. I mean, you're welcome to look up Racket online and read the introduction to the manual if you really want, but we don't expect you to do that. We really start you at ground zero when you come in. So there's really nothing required to be successful in that course. Hopefully that helps. If you have more questions about it, email, and I'm happy to have long conversations about programming paradigms. I like talking about that stuff.
Yeah,
it's probably too much for this. Probably too much for this meeting. So.
Yeah, I know, and of course, this is a question that we often get. I don't have a knowledge in computer science, and how should I go about it, and stuff like that.
And I'm glad people ask that. I mean, I think commonly, I think I interpret that as people are concerned, right? Because you're coming in and doing something you've never seen before. Don't worry about that. I feel like I have to say this, it sounds corny, but if we've accepted you or made you an offer, it's because we strongly think you are going to be really successful in this program. It's designed for you to come in and be successful, okay? So we're not expecting you to go and do prep to qualify. You've already qualified and you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. The next question is, can I do both a specialization and a minor?
You absolutely can. There's no limit to how you stack them up, except that you have to make the courses fit somehow. What you'll find practically is you don't have enough electives to add too many. You could probably do a specialization and a minor in the same time if you're really careful how you sort of double up courses. There's no limit. There's no practical limit. You just may end up staying for an extra term or two. I think I said yesterday, Pavik, I think I saw we had one student graduate last term with, I think, 3 specializations, but it took her something like 3 extra terms to fit in all the courses. And you can do that. We'll let you do that if you want. But it's normal to do 1, maybe a minor on top of that. But talk to us and we'll help you figure out what's possible and not possible.
Yeah, as we call math, Faculty of Math gives you infinite open doors. So, you can take as much as you want, but provided you have that patience and time to, get it over it. It's not that easy at times.
Absolutely. And frankly, it's difficult to know when to stop. There's a lot of things I would still like to study, even after this many years, right? So.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, moving again back to the Q&A. Are there any prerequisites for CS 145?
I believe we use your Euclid results to help determine admission. I don't actually know. So the Math Undergrad Office handles admission for 145 and 135. That might be something, I'm not sure if anybody else who's on right now knows how we're doing admission for 145 this year. Typically, I think we offer spots to people that have the highest grades on the Euclid test, if you've written it. And if you haven't, you can add it during drop and add. You would contact the Math Undergrad Office and request it. And they'll add you if they feel it's appropriate. And going forward, we have advanced versions of other courses, and that's typically how we handle it is, you request it and then we would add you if you had the appropriate grades. It's a little different in this case because you're coming out of high school. We don't have a history of grades with you, right? So it has to be handled sort of on a one-on-one basis.
Okay. Next question is there any specific computer language like Python or C++ upon which majority of coding in course would be based, or we are free to choose any of them?
So you're almost never free to choose. So courses tend to rely upon a specific programming language because we code in class. We do. We show examples. We walk through code, and we in some languages we teach in quite a bit of depth. So languages you cover in order You do Racket in 135, C in 136, C++ in 246. If you take 349 with me, you do Java currently, probably Kotlin by next term. If you do 350, you would do C as well for operating systems. SQL, you do domain-specific languages and some other courses. You don't really have a choice until you hit about fourth year and start doing a project course or two. Then you might be free to say, we're going to build this specific piece of software and we're going to do it in Kotlin for Android or something like that. So yeah, you're not really free. We're going to systematically walk you through a bunch of these languages. You're going to become quite proficient. You're probably going to be most proficient in C, C++, because you've got a couple courses in that course. The unasked question, I guess, probably is there something I should focus on? If there's anything I would ever advise people to pick up on their own, Python. Pick up Python. It's used heavily in data science. It's used heavily in science. It's a really good sort of glue language for doing a lot of things. I wouldn't build a commercial app in it, but I guarantee you most of your co-ops, you're going to see Python as a secondary language. So that's a good one to pick up. And the CEMC website, we talked about at the very beginning, or as part of the talk, the cemc.uwaterloo.ca. We have a Python course there if you want to learn it on your own. It's not complicated, but it's useful.
Yeah, I think CMC is a great resource for anyone who wants to, start a little bit of programming and coding and those language training. So I would highly encourage every one of you to just visit it and take most out of it. So we have Jeff for another 6 minutes, and I have some questions, but this is the last call for if you have any questions, feel free to drop in the Q&A box, and we will we'll try and take it before we close this webinar. So moving on to the next question, Jeff, what is the greatest difference between choosing to have a BMath versus a Bachelor in Computer Science?
Sure. So, the short answer is there's not a huge difference between the two. And if you're in one, you can switch to the other at any time. All right. You're considered a CS student if you're in BCS or BMath CS. So the BMath CS was historically the original degree that we offered here. The idea was if you were in the Faculty of Mathematics, you received or earned a Bachelor of Mathematics in a discipline like computer science or combinatorics or something like that. Later, or more recently, we formed the BCS as sort of a standalone degree. So the big difference between the two is if you do a BMath in computer science, you can actually pair it up with other majors. So you can do a BMath CS plus combinatorics or plus statistics and get a double major. You cannot do that with the BCS. The BCS is a standalone degree. In terms of what you do for those degrees, again, they're almost the same. If you do the BMath, you have to take a numerical computation course, a couple extra math courses to sort of meet that requirement, but it's the same number of courses. There's just a little bit more math involved in that one. And again, they're practically, you can switch back and forth. It's not unusual for somebody to do a BMath all the way through and then in their last year go, forget it, I don't want to do that linear algebra course after all, and switch and graduate with the BCS. So.
Yeah, thank you. That was great. The next question is, do we need to choose a specialization? I mean, either is it mandatory or when do they do it?
It's absolutely not mandatory. So no, most students actually don't pick one. The majority of our students graduate with the Bachelor of Computer Science and maybe a minor in something else. And that's perfectly reasonable. In some ways, it actually makes sense in a lot of cases because by not picking a specialization, it gives you the ability to fill up all those electives with anything, right? You can cherry pick. You can say, I want to do advanced programming languages, but I also love computer graphics, and I also want to learn distributed systems, but I want to do real time, right? You can sort of do a larger range of areas, and sometimes that's really, really useful. So no, there's no requirement to pick.
Perfect. And the next question is, what do we need to prepare for a co-op if we do not have a CS experience? I think co-op has been, something like that they are concerned right now because they don't have a CS experience and that they are looking at co-op options. And a lot of students get this query that, my first co-op, I have no experience with me. Probably I'm not that I have not learned that much, and how will my first co-op be like? So I guess this is a
Sure.
question to that line. Yeah.
And that's totally valid. I can understand your concerns. So first of all, you keep in mind that most of you are in exactly that situation, right? Most students show up here to start CS with no CS experience. That's just the way it is, right? Where would you have gotten CS experience? That would be a very unusual thing to have at this point in your life. And I'm also saying this as an employer, by the way. Before academia, I spent 20 years as an employer. I was an engineering manager for a number of large companies. I hired Waterloo grads. That's actually how I ended up here. I was impressed enough with the program I decided I wanted to teach in it. Employers have different expectations depending on where you are in your program. There's no employer that expects you as a first-year CS student to walk in and be able to do all these amazing things, right? Because no, of course not. You're at the beginning of your adventure, right? You're at the beginning of your academic career, and their expectations are scaled to that. So in your first co-op term, you should expect to go somewhere where it's gonna seem scary because you're not gonna know anything, and that's okay because employers are expecting to teach you and for you to learn on the job, right? So what's important for you is to basically be able to point at the skills that you've got and say, I have amazing analytical skills, amazing problem solving skills, and you can parachute me in and I'm going to learn what I need to learn. Look at what I've already learned before. Another way to think about it is that the range of things you have to know in computer science is staggeringly large. Nobody knows everything. And I guarantee you, there's no way we could prepare you for even the majority of jobs that are out there. There's just no combination of courses we could give you that would let you walk in and know everything, right? So what we do, which I think works really well, is again, we focus on your problem solving skills and your ability to learn on the job and figure things out as you're going. And you'll find as you advance academically, you will learn more in school, and then employers will expect you to know those things, right? By third year, they're expecting you to know quite a bit about C++ because you've had a course or two, right? But they don't have that expectation until about third year because they sort of know how our program is set up. I hope that helps.
Yes, that certainly helps a lot. And that brings us to the end of the webinar. We are right on time. It's 11 a.m. and I think it's time to wrap up. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. If you have more questions for Jeff or any one of us, feel free to reach out to us at mathinfo@uwaterloo.ca, the email ID that you see on the screen. And of course, there are social media handles, so you can follow us, and you can always know about your Waterloo life and how it pans on the social media. So thank you very much for joining, and thank you very much, Jeff, for being here, taking time out of your busy schedule, talking to students, and it was really very insightful as always. So thank you so much for a great session with all of us.
Thank you.
And yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Hope to see you on University of Waterloo campus someday. Hopefully very soon, very soon. Yeah, cool. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.